Dawn, we're here in upstate New York. It's a pleasant day. There's some wind, so we are at a site that's quite unique. First, geographically, where are we located in New York?
We are about 30 miles south of Albany, which is our capital, and as the crow flies, we're about 3 miles east of the Hudson River. The city of Hudson, which is the county seat, is about 10 miles away from us driving time.
Mm-hmm. Now, what community are we in?
The town of Kinderhook.
The town of Kinderhook?
Yes, and just north of us is the village of Kinderhook, which is where Martin Van Buren was born, and also where he was laid to rest.
Now, we, of course, are at his home, and this is quite a home. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's talk about Martin right now and talk about his involvement with politics.
Okay, he started out locally as a law apprentice, and following his father Abraham's political loyalties would align himself with the Jeffersonian Republicans, which later meant that he would part ways with his Federalist mentors and finish his apprenticeship with the son of Judge Van Ness, who built this house. Which is kind of interesting.
And then he went on to bigger and better things?
He was 30 years old during the War of 1812 and elected to the New York State Senate. And then at the age of 38, chosen as a United States Senator, which is where he meets Andrew Jackson. And they work well enough together that Van Buren runs for governor of New York State in 1828 to line up New York's votes for President Jackson, and they are successful in that mission. And as such, Van Buren is our governor for 71 days and then is appointed Secretary of State, followed by one term as vice president and one term as our country's 8th president. If someone were to ask me what is Van Buren's accomplishment during his 40 years as a politician, I would say that he was very skilled at organizing the Democrats, first in New York State when he was a senator here, and then from north to south during his time as a United States Senator. And he honed his skills and convinced politicians to compromise. For that, he was called the Red Fox of Kinderhook, partly because he had red hair, and also because of the slyness like a fox working behind the scenes. He was also called the Little Magician, which his supporters considered a compliment, and his opponents considered somewhat of a slander, because they said he would sit on the fence and never state his mind on an issue until he knew how it would be decided.
Yeah, politics are strange bedfellows, aren't they? Especially in New York at that time. Let's talk about the house. A beautiful home here. We are in a grove of trees just to the right or left, depending upon what you're looking at the house. But it is a beautiful setting, and it does sit off the road quite a bit. Tell us about the home itself.
This house was built in 1797 for a local judge, and in that year, the future 8th president was a 15-year-old working on his apprenticeship. He was away from Kinderhook as a lawyer and a politician for 40 years, and it was during his administration that he bought this house from an absentee landowner, and would be the 3rd owner, and prepared to live here after his presidency. He was defeated in 1840 by William Henry Harrison and John Tyler, or Tippecanoe and Tyler too, and would spend 21 years here. And in his will, he wrote, "I, Martin Van Buren of the town of Kinderhook, county of Columbia, state of New York, heretofore governor of New York, and more recently president of the United States, but for the last and happiest years a farmer in my native town." So he had great interest in developing an apple orchard, which actually would have been right behind me, and also a pear orchard. And then in front of me and off to my right, there would have been a kitchen garden and also sizable farm fields down to the Kinderhook Creek.
I guess sometimes they can't wait to get out of politics to enjoy their life, as far as that's concerned.
And for Martin Van Buren, he was 58 years old when he was defeated for re-election. He had 4 adult sons, and there would soon be 3 daughters-in-law, and a total of 10 grandchildren who often spent time here in the summer months. So for the first 10 years, he was fairly content with his 18-room house. He made a few changes to it, and then his youngest son, Smith, said something along the lines of, the house needs to be larger and it needs to be more modern. So an 18-room federal symmetrical style house was enlarged with an Italianate addition, And the challenge for the architect, Richard Upjohn, was to blend the symmetrical original house with this addition. And he did so by adding a front porch, a side entrance for the family, the 4.5-story tower, which you'd have to come by to fully appreciate. And then he bricked in some older windows and opened up some new ones to blend those two parts of the house.
Mm-hmm. And how many rooms do we now have?
The number that we use is 36. A third of those rooms are the work areas for the Irish servants and the storage areas in the basement. The first floor was for entertaining, very public spaces for the most part, and then the second floor has family bedrooms and guest rooms. The third floor was set aside for the household servants.
Mm-hmm. And we do have water in the house. It was cold water, but it was water.
Van Buren had what may have been the first running water and indoor flush toilet and bathtub, cold water only, but in Columbia County, and that was part of the 1850 addition.
Mm-hmm. The addition was done by a gentleman by the name of Upjohn.
Richard Upjohn is well known for his design of Trinity Church in New York City and smaller churches in rural areas like Kinderhook. He worked on the addition, or he designed the addition, and it was completed over the course of 2 years, 1849 and 1850.
Well, now the furniture inside of the home, is that all original to the home, or have pieces been added or taken away?
Our goal as caretakers of Lindenwald is that it looks as much as possible like it did in Martin Van Buren's time. So we have 5 sleigh beds that are original to the house. Van Buren had 8, according to some of the records. The pieces are a mixture of those original furnishings, some pieces that belong to various family members through the generations, and in some cases reproductions, like the dining room table was made by a gentleman from the Saratoga area, John Kovacic, and he recently crafted chairs to complete the seating around the table.
That's a unique table. I understand that it can, it looks big in the picture that I'm showing right now, but it actually can be whittled down to something small.
As shown, it seats 20. When the leaves are removed and the chairs pulled aside, it does fold up with accordion-style hinges. They're diamond-shaped hinges, and it's 2 feet wide.
That's amazing. It gives them a little more room for more guests in there.
That's right. And if he didn't have a house full of company, he may have taken his meals in the breakfast room, which is just on the other side of one of these walls off the dining room.
If someone wanted more information on the Martin Van Buren home that we have here, how do they get that?
The Park Service has a website. It's www.nps for National Park Service /MAVA. And there's a link to a general email which comes to my mailbox, and we'd be happy to answer information requests. We do send out brochures to people and help them plan their visits. They can also call the park at 518-758-9689 during our business hours, which are 9 o'clock until 4:30, 7 days a week, mid-May through October.